ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਦਿਸ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਆਫ ਦਾ ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਸ਼ੋ। ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਾਮਵਰ ICBC ਦੇ ਵਕੀਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਲਈ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਕਿ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਇਹ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਕੋਈ ਲੈਜਿਸਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਇੰਟਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਏਗੀ ਜਿਸ ਨਾਲ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਫਾਈਨੈਂਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਸਿਸ ਨੇ ICBC ਦੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੋਲਵ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏ। ਔਰ ਇਸ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਜ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਕੈਪਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੀ ਇਫੈਕਟ ਪਏਗਾ, ਕੀ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਪਏਗਾ। ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਦਾ। Bernie, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here. We have seen since the past few days, and today also in the Vancouver Sun, there was a report that the government plans to introduce some legislation which they say will solve the ICBC financial crisis. And they're trying to say that they'll put some caps on the pain and suffering claims for BC motorists. So as an experienced lawyer, what do you feel what this legislation holds and what impact it will have?
Well, I think the legislation is very ill-conceived. In fact, we don't even know what the legislation is, except that they absolutely appear to be intent on depriving the victims of car accidents the right to have access to the courts. When they first announced this a few months ago, it was fairly mundane. They were talking about, you know, the very small cases where there's a scratches and this and that. We'll give them $5,500 and we'll pay for their medical treatment. And you could almost live with that, you know. But now in today's announcement, this is quite concerning because they're now talking about $50,000 and they're talking about caps where they're going to give $5,500 for pain and suffering. And it raises a lot of questions as to, first of all, who's going to make this decision? Is this going to be some adjuster who's going to make this decision? And in law, you make decisions based on evidence. So what evidence will they have? Will they have a medical report? And we all know that, you know, when the ICBC gets medical reports, they have a stable of doctors, and those doctors will say what the ICBC wants. I don't believe that this has been well thought out. I think that this is being driven by probably a couple of the ideologues in the NDP government. I don't believe that the average member of the caucus, who is like probably 45 years old, because I was in there at that time, fully appreciates what's happening. And politically, this could be political suicide for them. You know, they won 5 seats in Surrey. They could easily, in the next election, which could be tomorrow, Weaver could bring down the government. They could lose 5 seats over this issue. You cannot deprive victims of car accidents of the right to have access to the courts, where there's an impartial judge and to decide on the evidence. That's not to say that there's not a serious situation with ICBC. But you have to ask yourself, and this is what the Attorney General, who I have the highest admiration for, there hasn't been an Attorney General since Alex MacDonald under Dave Barrett's days that has a greater appreciation of the court system. I don't think he's embracing this concept of depriving people of the access to the courts enthusiastically. I think this is the half a dozen ideologues perhaps are pushing for this. So this is very, very concerning what they're doing.
So the question is that there is a financial crisis, no doubt about it. But do you think that by just capping this, they'll be able to solve this? Because ultimately, what is going to happen?
No. First of all, capping it and developing this tribunal system, at what cost is this going to be? For instance, let's say there's about 150,000 car accidents a year where people are injured. Or let's say 100,000. And they decide that 1/3 are going to fit into this category. Okay, so they decide that 33,000 will fit into this category. These people will have access to a tribunal. Who will decide. This will be kind of the court of appeal. You know, there's a tribunal now to discuss, I think, rental conflicts and stuff. They hear about 50 cases a year. These people are not terribly adept who are on these tribunals. They're not, frankly, they probably haven't made it in their professions. They're not all lawyers. Some of them are notaries. Some of them are business people. First of all, where are these people going to come from for, let's say, 10,000 cases? Because there's going to be, I would say, they're going to classify probably 1/3 falling into this category. Probably 1/3 of that of those will probably insist on going to a tribunal.
Right.
And where are the people going to come from to sit on the tribunal? Where's the infrastructure going to come from to hear 10,000 cases a year? Now, they may say, well, we're going to do it online. Well, the older generation is not going to do this online.
That's
and
right.
where's the justice in that?
Right.
The Attorney General referred to the dumpster as on fire.
Right.
I don't think anybody will forget that term. Well, if the dumpster's on fire, you fire the driver of the dumpster.
That's right.
Or certainly look at him. I don't see any sign of them doing anything with the management of ICBC. Second of all, if the dumpster's on fire, you don't wait for 14 months to go ahead and put the fire out.
Right.
This legislation is supposed to be enacted on April 1st of 2019.
Right.
Which leads me to believe that they have not seriously thought this out. And actually, up until this morning, I thought that this was going to fall by the wayside. But now it looks like they're going to be going almost into the direction of what's called no-fault insurance,
Right.
where you deprive just about everybody of the right to go to court except the catastrophic cases. And answer to your question, is this going to control insurance rates? Here's a headline from CBC.
Yeah.
Capping claims won't lower your insurance bill, says industry executive.
Yeah.
Okay, so they introduced it in Newfoundland.
Right.
The president of the insurance companies was asked, is it going to lower our insurance bill now? They said, no, not necessarily.
Okay.
You have to understand there is a problem with ICBC, but this is a self-made problem.
Right.
It's outrageous that it wasn't this government, but the previous government would take $1.5 billion from the ICBC,
Right.
put it into general revenue. And now this government comes by and says, we have a crisis, we have a dumpster on fire, and who's going to pay for it? The public.
Right.
And the ones that are within the public that are going to be hurt the most are going to be, ironically, the voters of the NDP.
Right.
The working class, the lower social economic, those in that category. And the others, the majority, which was those who can afford it,
Right.
will hire lawyers like us.
Absolutely.
Okay?
But for the common people, it is going to be a big trouble because they won't be able to go.
They can't, well, there's going to be a group of lawyers that are going to fall by the wayside.
Right.
Those who are just dabbling in this area, maybe 15% of their practice is personal injury, they won't be able to afford to take on these cases.
Right.
We will take on these cases. We will be there for you when
Let's
this
go
happens.
for a short break. We'll be back and learn a little bit more because David Abbey is also saying that rising legal costs are one of the reason for this. How much serious is this condition and what the public need to know? We'll ask you after this short break.
Yeah.
ਘਰ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਥਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਹਰ ਕੋਈ ਆਪਣੀ ਨਿੱਜੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਸੁਨਹਿਰੀ ਪਲ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖਦਾ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰਿਆ ਜੀਵਨ ਬਤੀਤ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਪੂਰੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਦ ਕਿਸੇ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਨੂੰ ਸਜੇ ਹੋਏ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਬਦਲਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ। ਨਵੇਂ ਘਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਰੇਮਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਫਿਨਿਸ਼ਿੰਗ ਤੱਕ, ਡ੍ਰੇਪਰੀ, ਪੇਂਟਿੰਗਸ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਡੈਕੋਰੇਸ਼ਨ, ਐਸੈਸਰੀਜ਼ ਤੱਕ ਤੁਸੀਂ SK ਹੋਮ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੁਪਨਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਹਕੀਕਤ 'ਚ ਬਦਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ ਸੰਦੀਪ ਕੌਰ 6048259295।
Once again, welcome back to the program. ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ BC ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਜੋ ਇੱਕ ਲੈਜਿਸਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਇੰਟਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿ ਮੋਟਰਿਸਟ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਐਕਸੀਡੈਂਟਸ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕੈਪ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏਗਾ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਰਕਮ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਉਸ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਸਰਾਸਰ ਇੱਕ ਗਲਤ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਮ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਅਫੈਕਟਡ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ $5500 ਹੀ ਸਿਰਫ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਜਾਣਗੇ ਜੇਕਰ ਕੋਈ ਐਕਸੀਡੈਂਟ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਕੀ ਇਸ ਦਾ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਪਏਗਾ, ਕੀ ਕੁਝ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ, ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਆਓ ਕੁਝ ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਣੇ ਆ ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਤੋਂ। So Bernie, before the break, like I asked you that what impact will it have and what needs to be done? That's what is a concern now for the people. And as you very rightly mentioned, it's the common base of the NDP which might get affected. So what are your views? Why is it just the legal costs, as the government is saying, which are a reason for this financial crisis in ICBC?
You know, this reminds me of the saying in Shakespeare, kill the lawyers, it's a grossly oversimplification to say it's the legal cost. In effect, what they're saying is blame the victims.
Right.
Blame the victims. Don't accept any responsibility. The ICBC is not taking any responsibility for the fact, for instance, that they allowed, or the government, the previous government, took $1.5 billion, okay, out of the coffers. You have to look historically that this ICBC has been around since Dave Barrett's days, nearly 50 years, and most of those years they made money. They're not accepting the responsibility, the ICBC, of what they did with the adjusters. Everybody out there knows that every year there's more and more cars on the road.
Right.
And if there's more and more cars on the road, there's more accidents.
Of course.
If there's more accidents, you hire more adjusters.
Right.
Not only did the ICBC not hire more adjusters, they laid off adjusters. And the morale among the adjusters, and some of the viewers might be adjusters, is absolutely terrible.
Right.
If they would have handled many of these cases properly when those people first came into their offices,
Right.
and stopped nickeling and diming on the damage to their vehicles and given them the treatment that they should have, they wouldn't be rushing to a lawyer. It's only when they are abused, when they feel that, listen, I'm a victim from this car accident, now I'm being victimized by ICBC, that they go and get help. And then it's a level playing field.
Right.
Now the government and the ICBC wants to take away that level playing field by denying these people the access to the courts.
Right.
There's so many things that I could list that is responsible for the rising legal costs, and it's not the fault of the victims of the car accidents.
Right. So now what to do, because the government is bent upon introducing this legislation, and they are thinking by this, as you pointed before the break, that this will not reduce the cost of insurance for the common people. Despite this, the government coming forward and saying that it is going to, bring relief to the common masses, but it is actually going to be something.
There's no guarantee. If you look at, what does the headline say?
Right.
Read me out the headline.
Yeah, it says that ICBC legislation could solve.
Could,
Yeah,
not
it's
will.
would.
Could.
Yeah.
And if you look at the province paper today,
Right.
I think it says may.
Right.
There's no guarantee. Ending up in court is not necessary.
Right.
For a while there, for many years, the ICBC wouldn't even mediate cases, which is a far more civil way of doing it, far more cheaper way.
Right.
That's when you have a mediator, both sides agree to a mediator, and you go into a room for a few hours,
Right.
and you settle these cases. For years, the ICBC wouldn't even mediate most of these cases.
Right.
Mediation is the way to do this. You don't have to go to court on these cases. I'm not sure where this is going to end up, but I'm shocked that people who are so concerned about the well-being of the middle class, of the working class, is so abusive in their policies. This is so blatantly prejudicial towards the victims of car accidents.
So it is going to be effective from April 1st, 2019, which is 1 year ahead from now.
Right.
So this means that the accidents after this will fall preview under this?
I was at a luncheon with the Attorney General, or he was the speaker, and I asked the first question. That was the question I asked, will it be retroactive?
Right.
And he assured me that it would not be. Okay. But he also assured me that there was going to be caps and that you'll have access to the courts.
Right.
Now, I don't think you can rely on anything that the government says in view of these recent reports where now they want to have a tribunal for cases of $50,000.
Right.
Who's going to make this decision? And the fact is, the average case in our office is settled within a year and a half or 2 years, maybe a little bit longer. You actually cannot quantify many of these cases for at least a year and a half or 2 years. Sometimes there's a pre-existing condition that has been aggravated.
Right.
You don't know how long the person's going to be off work.
Right.
We had cases that would fall into this category of $5,500, where we've settled for $1 million, where it turns out that their working life expectancy has been severely affected by these accidents.
Okay.
This is going to be a mess, and I really don't think the government knows what they're doing. If you notice in the article, he says that we've been advised to do this. Who in the heck are their advisors? Who's their advisors?
Right.
I'd be very interested. Some reporter should ask, who has been advising?
Absolutely.
In other provinces where this has been introduced, as you can see from the headline here in the CBC, it does not mean that the rates are going to go down.
Absolutely.
What's going to cause less accidents will be when people stop doing this distracted driving.
Right.
I mean, this has been terrible what has happened.
That's right.
That's gone up, I think, 35% crashes in the last 3 or 4 years because people have been on their cell phones, or God knows what else they're doing.
Right.
And modern technology will bring down accidents. For instance, if you buy a Japanese car these days, if you're going to rear end somebody, chances are that that car will kick in, and I read figures of 40% rear enders will be avoided.
Right.
Or if a kid runs in front of you, the car will stop automatically.
Right.
But it gets back down to management. I haven't seen one word mentioned by any member of this government or the previous government that the management has to be shaken up at ICBC.
Absolutely, and that is what the focus should be, rather than the
Absolute-
management needs to be shaken up, because as you very rightly said, basically affecting the common masses is not going to bring about that change.